I got 99 problems, but the Super Bowl is not one. This is Schmitty with another episode of Talkin Schmit. Today on the podcast, Ron Whaley, super hyped to bring this one to you. And also in the news, what did you say, E40?
Bang, bang, Niner gang. Bang, bang, Niner gang.
Niner gang. Niners, Super Bowl bound. You already know. SFCA. Hey. Niner gang. That's right, kids. Niners, we're Super Bowl bound, baby. We're going to go check out that, what is it? The Death Star Stadium over there by Baca's house. Yeah, let's go. SFCA, Niners, Niner gang. We're fired up here. I hope you enjoy Ron Whaley. Super stoked to finally hook up with Ron. We were going to do it in person, but there was storms and Highway 17 and you know all the excuses. Oh yeah, and watch this.
This is Ron Whaley, and you're watching? You're feeling. This is Ron Whaley, and you're tasting Talkin Schmit.
Hey, Talkin Schmit. I'm already not watching.
It's cool, like tonight is the night.
Damn, this is like the coolest thing I'm ever gonna do.
I wouldn't say it was fun.
What do you mean, bro? Christian Fletcher's younger brother.
Fuck the Dodgers.
Big Dog's in. What do you think, Dolan?
We on? Schmitty?
Talkin Schmit.
Alpha macaroni.
Most of these guys, their opinion don't matter.
Talkin Schmit, right?
It's skateboarding.
I remember that.
Talkin Schmit.
What are yuns doing?
Holy shit.
Skateboarding homies.
No, Schmitty, you can't jump in.
What is happening?
Let's hear it for Greg Swift. Yeah!
Gregory.
Yes, we are. Wi-Fi check 1, Wi-Fi check 2.
All right, guys. January, new year, new attitude, coming out swinging like a motherfucker. I was going to drive over to Santa Cruz today and do this in person, but you know all the excuses. But we got a special guest for you today. This is Ron Whaley, kids.
NorCal legend.
Ron, how are you? Good to see your face.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, got a martini. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Rad. Thanks for doing this. This will be fun.
I think I've done like one pod before.
Oh, really?
It was just like a homie one.
Yes. I love that. I love that shit. Were you born in Salba land?
I was born in West Covina, and then we moved to Orlando because my dad's from Florida. But then when I was from 5 to 7th grade, was in Upland. So I went to Pioneer Junior High. That's in like the blind videos and stuff. And I know the Albas went there.
Is that when you discovered skateboarding?
So skateboarding was like so popular when I was, I started skating there, just like rolling as a kid. But it was like so popular in junior high that I kind of like rode bikes instead. I was into like freestyle bikes. And then when I moved to Santa Cruz, nobody rode bikes. And so I just fully traded my bike for a helmet so I could skate the park and stuff. So,
what park?
Actually, to go back, we were going to go visit Upland again, and we were going to go to the Pipeline.
Oh.
And so it was like the second time I'd ever been there, I think.
I got to go there a couple of times too. I saw Salba there when I was a little kid. I was like, ah.
I went there. I think I went there with my mom, and we just like went to check it out. And just Eddie Fiola was there on a bike.
No way.
Like full classic, like yellow leathers, like a hero, and doing like 12-foot airs in the combi bowl. And I was just like, what? I was like, is this guy doing this for us? Like, just because we happen to be walking by or just practicing? And it was so insane. Like, big fan of that guy.
What age were you when you moved to Santa Cruz?
11 or 12, I think.
Okay. So you went to high school there.
Yeah. SoCal High, actually right by where the old NHS was. So when I got sponsored, I actually could go there at lunch and go get a package, and came back and put it in my locker and looked super cool.
Is that the one that had like the little courtyard that people would skate? There was like a downhill curb, like into a little square area, and there was like a planter box with like a curb down, like maybe 2 stairs.
maybe Santa Cruz High.
Yeah.
That was like the quad, and that's where we skated all this stuff. That was it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So this was different. This is SoCal High?
Yeah. And that's out like
by SoCal.
On the closer to Capitola over there.
Was the skate park still there when you were there?
No, I drove by there just recently, where Carpos is, like that food place or whatever, and like you could just see part of the bank sticking out of the dirt.
No way.
And I never noticed that before, but they buried it before I moved to Santa Cruz.
Oh, so it's buried. It's not jackhammered.
Maybe both.
Okay.
I don't really know. I've heard stories of people trying to dig it up, or maybe there's just part of it.
Yeah. Roskopp lived there for a while.
Wow.
Yeah, but I never got to skate there either. When I was young, we drove by it and it was still skatable, but it was all fenced off. So like you had to know people to get in there or whatever.
I didn't know Roskopp.
No, not at all. So when you moved to Santa Cruz, like, do you start meeting people that are skating? Like, do you get a little crew going?
Yeah, well, I moved to Scotts Valley at first. So
okay.
There was this kid, Mike O'Brien, and he was like, I started watching videos and stuff, but he was like just a classic, like already like a historian at like 12 years old.
No
so
way.
like schooled me on like everything, and kind of taught me about like all I cared about was like kick flips. And he was like trying to teach me about bonelesses and just everything. And he had, like, man, he might have had like a Jimmy's beret, to like the Division streetwear. Like all of his clothes were like skater.
I may or may not have had one of those Jimmy's berets too.
And later, like I think we were only really friends in like junior high. Like I think we went to different high schools too, and was already like, okay, like we'd hung out enough, but I learned, and his dad was pretty awesome about like, his dad took us to EMB, took us to Benicia, took us to, was it Fishbanks, Deanza?
Yeah.
Like, so, and some like, again, he knew like all these spots. Like we were going to go to like Montague or whatever it's called. There was like some like Grant Banks that Steve Caballero 360'd.
Yeah.
But it was done. Like I never got to skate that spot, but he took us like everywhere, and it was awesome.
Oh, the one Cab 360, that was Memorex. Montague was the one that like Corey O'Brien and them skated, where were like parties and just curbs on top of like docks, On
top of banks. And then Memorex was the one that was like a pyramid.
Yeah. And I think that was close to the Dell's Wall or whatever, the Wave.
Mm-hmm.
Did you skate that one?
Well, I had, because of Tim, I've skated that a ton. Like,
yeah.
He loved that spot.
For sure. Wow. Getting to those spots was always kind of like, looking back, we're like, how did we find Fishbanks or all these places? Like, I don't know. It's just word of mouth, I guess. Somebody told you a street and then you looked it up on a map, maybe.
Yeah, and you wrote it. Yeah, you had maps. You had maps in your car, and you wrote that stuff down. It's funny because I was going to ask you one question on this interview. Was did you not cold call me one time and get me on circuit wheels?
What the fuck is that?
No,
you didn't put me on circuit.
Maybe Paul Zawanich.
Okay, I thought you contacted me.
I don't even know how to call it, but like I was helping Paul a lot. Like Paul was doing Freedom, and then Paul was doing Circuit, and then I was like with him all the time. So I would like be doing their website or like maybe helping shipping one day. We'd be skating, and then it was almost like a side little project. But I don't think I ever made any calls. I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was like, because I remember just being like, yeah, like sick.
And did you get on?
Yeah.
And who else was on that was Circuit? Was that Duffy?
So it was Duffy and Danny Way and maybe Kane Gale.
And it was a sick team. I remember that.
I remember just being like, yeah, you guys, all right. It's a good team. Thank you.
Yeah. Man, did you skate derby early, like when you were a little kid?
Yeah, I got my first hipper there for sure. Like trying to like dumb little kid thing, like not skating it like a snake, but try and drop in and skate it like a half pipe. And I dropped in and fell straight to the other side.
I cut my teeth at Derby.
Yeah, that place I've taken some too. The story I always tell is when Preston was living in San Francisco, he would be like, we cannot go to Santa Cruz without going to Derby. Like the minute we get into Santa Cruz, we got to go to Derby and at least take one run every time. Like he never went to Santa Cruz once, I don't think, without going there. It was pretty like kind of like a ritual. So yeah, watching the locals there is like next level too. You're like, this is kind of hard to skate. And then you see these dudes just fucking murdering.
Like generally or generationally, there'll be somebody who's just like gets so good at it. That dude Heath rides for Consolidated, like, right? Or Casey Helseth. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think the first time I skated it, it didn't have the sidewalk. I don't know if we were skating back then.
Yeah, I did.
It was so hard to even just go up the snake. I remember, and just watching like the people, like you said, like the people who knew how to do it were amazing at it. That's what I don't think I met Israel there, but I think one of the first times I saw him was there, and he's got to be one of the best people to skate that place.
Really sick. Damn. Yeah, I was gonna say, you and Israel, did you guys meet pretty early?
Yeah, I met him like I think I was like 14 and he was like 11 or something like that.
I got a little note from Zarosh today, and he said to ask you about this video you made in Spanish class.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because he knows my friend Seth Vesper that I went to high school with. Lives out there in Zarosh's area. And there's that handrail on the Morrissey exit that's like a pretty popular Santa Cruz handrail. A lot of people like came out and did like tech tricks on it. I think in like some Lakai video for a while there. E-Man kickflip back tailed it.
Oh yeah.
But so we filmed something there, and I remember cavemaning it in the video, even though we were speaking Spanish or whatever. And we had one of my friends dressed up as like a priest that kicked us out, and he was also speaking Spanish. The whole thing was a Spanish project, but we turned it into a skate video. And I want to say maybe I either cavemaned it or tried to like ollie rail slide the thing and just sacked, and that's in the video somewhere.
Was it for school?
I might have it somewhere. If I do, I'll try and like flip it and send it to you.
So like early on, you seem like you're a pretty pro Halloween guy. Like, have you always kind of been into like getting the costumes and stuff?
I think when as a little kid or whatever, just like anybody likes Halloween.
Yeah.
But I think as I got older, like maybe and even like, it was probably like around 30 when I started like wanting to like, not quite cosplay or anything, although that seems cool to me, but
yeah,
making like decent costumes. Or since then, I don't really do it very much, but I have a few of them sitting around. We have the Bowie one, the Labyrinth one, and then the Wes from Road Warrior was like my favorite one. So I have all the stuff like the football pads, and like I just have to like have a mohawk at the time to do it. But made a little like wrist crossbow thing, and have like the spike stuff and chaps.
Damn. Lee Sharon was wrong. I think him and one other guy said your favorite was going to be the Bowie one.
Oh yeah, that one. They're both. I think the Bowie one I just like have used too many times.
The Road Warrior one, that's sick.
You have to be in like a certain state to be able to like just chill in those tights. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not only does he have the Bowie tights on, but they're like up to here.
Oh wow.
And it's like a little like frilly like vest and like a pirate shirt, but it's just like straight. Yeah.
But going back to the video you made for the Spanish thing, there's something to do with you and a wagon going up onto your teacher's lawn or something, and then possibly that wagon was like a graphic early in your. I mean, we're talking with Zarosh, who's like, he's a scientist when it comes to this stuff. Huge historian. And
if he's really good friends with Israel, so Israel like probably remembers it better than I do,
Yeah.
But that was my parents' station wagon, and I have two older sisters, and I got it. My parents brought it brand new, whatever, in like 1982, and then, drove it to forever, drove it across the country and for however many 100,000 miles. And then my oldest sister got it. And then she got another car. And my second oldest sister got it. And then I got it third. And by the time I got it, it was just like, it was loud. And it's the, got the wood panels on the side. And
kind of like Jimmy Z style.
Yeah, it's like the, in Vacation.
Oh yeah, Griswold.
That's actually like underneath that is the wagon that we had, but they just added like an extra set of headlights. But it's the same like wood paneling. Like they basically like based it off of like, that's how insane like that one was with the wood panels.
Oh wow!
And then when they asked me what I wanted for my first board, I was like, "Can you make it like the side of the wagon, like the wood panels?" And they did. And they had to do it like, since this is 1992 or 91, they had to they like bought wood paneling. They bought like the reflectors. I know my name is somehow, overlaid in artwork, but it wasn't like computer generated. They had to,
was it a slick bottom or regular?
Yeah, it was like the first round of like SMA slicks, or for us, that like shiny version.
Damn, that was 91.
Yeah, 92, something like that. Yeah, I think I turned pro in 92.
Damn, okay.
And then I didn't know this until like a year ago, but Bob DeNike, who runs NHS, like said that he walked into the art department at that time and saw the wagon mock-up, and he's like, "We're not doing that, are we?" And they're like, "Well, yeah, that's what he wants." And somehow they did it.
Rad.
He was a hard no on that graphic.
That went under old Bob. I like it.
Maybe like 9 years ago, we did it. There was another one that was like the tail of the wagon with like a license plate.
Oh, sick. Rad. So what was your first sponsor?
Aside from Skate Works, which I see you have the sticker there.
Yeah, of course. Strubings are my homies.
They kind of like were my other family.
Ah.
I could go there, and as I think I met Jason when I was 15, and just like right after the earthquake would like start staying at their house on the weekends and stuff, and hanging out with Jason like every day.
Were they in Boulder Creek?
Yeah. And so I think the first time I ever went and hung out with them, I stayed at their house, but it wasn't really their house because they were like renting some other house because their house had been lifted off the foundation when the Loma Prieta earthquake.
Oh, wow. Yep.
I was actually in Skate Works when it happened, and I was with Jason, and my mom was just coming to pick me up, and all of a sudden the whole shop started shaking. The boards fell off the wall, and they fell like onto the glass case with like the wheels and we ran outside, and the first thing I see is the shop is like right next to a big tree, and it's like the tree's like rubbing up against the building because the building's like moving. And then I look out onto Scotts Valley Drive, which is like the main strip in Scotts Valley, like a 4-lane road. And telephone poles, the wire in between is going slack and taut because there's a wave going down Scotts Valley Drive, a wave of cement, and then it's making the telephone poles like move with it.
That was gnarly.
I'll never forget. Yeah.
Did it fuck with any of the ground out where you guys were? Because like in the city, it came loose, and I'm sure you saw the photos of like Julian and them. Like there was little curbs that became like kickers and stuff up here.
I think so, but I didn't really. I don't know. Maybe I was like young enough at the time to where I wasn't. I don't remember like us getting any specific skate spots. The only thing I can think of skate wise is the story. There's a story. This homie Jeff Tick that was from Scotts Valley. We had a mini ramp out there, or my friend Delson had a mini ramp that everybody would go skate. But he was notorious for like a front rock. He would just like stall a front rock, like really like front rock. Like, and it's just like, are you going to ever come in? Just like out there. And so the rumor was that Jeff Tick was stalled in a front rock when the earthquake started. He had to jump off. So.
Yeah, what do you think's worse, stalling a rock forever, or the guy that goes ta 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 before he comes in? You know what I mean?
Like bangs it twice or whatever,
or like 5 times. Some guys are just like, "Look at me, I'm doing a rock."
That's probably equal.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
I've
both
never
which are
done
better than
that.
just like not even like your just a flat one, it's one that doesn't even rock at all.
Oh yeah, just like right. Like what do you think early on was the stoke though for you? Like what was it about skateboarding at a young age that drew you in and was like, I mean, you've been doing it at least 40 years probably. Like
Yeah.
the fire kind of early was it
over 40? I guess over 40 now. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
first like that feeling of like rolling in freedom. I remember that from being like 9 years old before I even like really got into tricks and stuff. Just remember, I don't know. It's kind of like riding a bike around the neighborhood too, just being like free from the house and everything and getting away. And even like to this day, like if I go on a family vacation, there's like, well, see you guys today. I'm just going to go push down the street and get away from everybody. Like that's kind of something I always liked about it. I don't know if you know what Stater Brothers is, like this grocery chain down south. And I was with my mom going to get food and I walk out and there's a dude. I don't know if you've ever seen anybody like stand in the shopping cart and hold on to both sides and do like, how you can hold yourself up and do tricks and hang out in the air. And I walk out and this dude does a kickflip like that, like holding on to these things. And it must have been like, I even like went back and thought about it. I was like, how did that guy, I was like, I wonder who he was, because somebody doing a kickflip back then, like, I think the first one I can think of seeing was like, whatever, it's Rodney Mullen or something like that. But this was probably not that far after that. And I remember just like thinking about it like so much, like wait, you can like do an ollie and you can hit the side. And he basically did it and he was totally assisting himself. But maybe I would never have like seen one that looked like that if I hadn't seen him do it like that. And then I was like, I don't know. It seems like kids learn it now quickly, but I remember putting a good like half a year of just torture into like learning how to do kickflips. And that first day where like, okay, I'm going to actually try a land on this and like taking one primo and just being like terrified.
Yeah.
And like getting like hurt, like shinners and stuff, and then doing one. And then like after that, like, that's why I said my friend Mike O'Brien was like, he was almost annoyed with me at how much I'd do kickflips because I was just like so obsessed with them. And he's like, I remember him saying, he's like, you're never going to go anywhere just doing kickflips.
Mind blown.
So how did the Sims thing come along? Was Sims at NHS at the time?
Yeah.
Oh,
So what it must be, it's like 1989 or 90. Remember, because Sims was always Vision. Well, somehow NHS bought Sims from Vision and just had it for a year, maybe like just a year or two. Okay, so my friend Greg Kizik that I used to skate with, he was a really good vert skater, and we'd all go skate that. I think he'd take me to the San Jose warehouse over there, that first one that Corey O'Brien and it was like a club. It wasn't really like a skate park.
Just the one that was vert and spine only.
Yeah.
Yep.
See like Ben Schroeder there and stuff. So my friend Greg, he could do McTwists. Like he was a vert skater. He was from San Diego and he moved to SoCal or somewhere, Aptos or something like that. And he went to my high school. And I think he like walked up to me. It was like, he goes, do you want to go skate sometime or whatever? I was like, sure. And then started skating. I was like, oh my God, this guy's like amazing at ramps, like super finesse. And then one day he was like, he got sponsored by Sims and he said, I think it was Steve Keenan, who ran SMA, was doing Sims too. And he was, I remember like Greg taking me to NHS and being like, hey, do you guys want like a sponsor me tape or something? And Keenan was like, no, I've seen you at Derby. I was like, okay. And I still like, well, here's my tape. Still bringing the tape in. And that tape ended up being like, which was like, half of it's filmed, it's by Israel and has like the time code in the bottom and stuff. And that's like a lot of the tricks that are in, it was like a Strange Notes VHS video. Like the last one I did that was VHS had like Gershon, me, like I think Jaya's in there, and maybe Spencer or Edward. All kind of like were AMs at that time. And that's where that footage went to.
Rad. Yeah, that was always kind of weird. It seemed like Sims was so known. I mean, my first snowboard was a Sims, so I associated it with like Tom Sims, right? But then it's all of a sudden it's at NHS. Is Tom Sims, is he a part of it?
So Eric Nash was.
Oh, really?
One of my very first boards, I was always a big like Kevin Staub fan as a kid. Like,
Yeah.
just, whatever is the whole like vibe.
Yeah. The cult.
Yeah, and the cult. Like, I love that. My sister was like, I think my sister had the poster, and like my middle older sister is like 4 years older than me, and we grew up in Southern California. And she always like she looked like Susie from the Banshees for a few years, and was just like way ahead. And like I would just like take her tapes and listen to her music, and like so I got into the cult. So I was like, oh, this dude's into the cult, and like I like this whole pirate vibe. But as far as I know, only Eric Nash came with Sims.
Oh.
I never met him. The team was like me, Andy Roy, Israel, Frank Harada somehow. It's like that got over. Like, so when Frank Harada went from Powell to NHS, I don't know if there was anything in between, he was on Sims too. It's pretty weird.
Did Andy have a model on Sims?
Yes, he was maybe only Andy and Frank actually had Sims Pro models aside from Eric Nash.
Okay.
And then that came apart, and I'm not sure if it was like right at the exact time that basically Keenan and Berto left NHS and made Consolidated. So they took half of the SMA team with them. And so there was nobody on SMA left. There was no more Sims, and everybody couldn't just go onto the Santa Cruz team. So some of us went to, like, Andy went to Santa Cruz, right? I believe.
Or he went to Consolidated, didn't he?
Did he go with them then?
Or he went later?
I think he went later.
Oh, yeah. Okay. But maybe Corey Chrysler and...
Also, disclaimer, and I might be totally wrong on every word that comes out of my mouth.
I love it. We're gonna have a phone call from Bert. Like, what is he talking about? That was 96.
As long as Andy's not mad at me, I'm good.
Yeah, what was Andy like as a young kid? Was he already like what he is?
It's always been exactly the same.
Yeah, just a madman.
My first hanging out with Andy Roy's story. We went to those Quartermaster Cup things in Santa Barbara. Powell would have these awesome like idea. They would have, it was like a battle between all the California shops from Northern California to Southern California. You had 3 people at each age division, under 10 or something, or 10 and under, whatever, 11 to 13, 14 to 15, and then older. So it would be like FTC versus Skateworks versus, like maybe some of the more of the Southern California ones were like spread around, but there was like Joey Pulsifer's family shop sessions. So everybody had, like, at that time, like the older cats, it would be like Salman, Edward on sessions, and then FTC would be like Mike Carroll, like everybody.
Yeah. Carl, Chico.
That did not want to like battle against.
Oh, fuck.
And then Mike Santa Rosa won them all because he just was there, and like,
really,
whatever shops and contests he was in, he was always like, did so good.
Huh. Santa Rosa. He was on Think for a minute when I started doing stuff with them.
Okay. Oh, but anyway, so we're going to go to that contest, right? And our team is, I think Andy was in the older, like whatever. I'm not sure if it was even 18 and up. It might have just been like 17, 18 or something like that. We had Andy Roy, Corey Chrysler, Justin, Jason Strubing, Israel, myself, and like we won it one year. But Andy was on Santa Cruz or Skateworks one year. So we all go down and we went to Isla Vista. If you've ever been to Isla Vista, like
party town
is insane. And we're all in our teens.
Yeah.
So we decided to go check that out. And we go into some like gigantic frat party, just skaters walking into houses, right? And just like some pumping baby pink lipstick and like blonde girls, and then just like jocked out huge dudes or whatever.
Yeah.
Basically, walk into the party, the first thing anybody does is Andy Roy walks up into like the biggest dude in there, and it is like, I think your girlfriend's hot, and like immediately get like booted. And I, like that was just how he would like introduced himself. Like, yeah, he's always been the same.
Oh,
Or, I don't want to say that he's always been the same, but like,
yeah,
it's been pretty like intense to be around in social situations. Let's just go ahead and say.
for sure. I'm proud of him right now. He's doing good. It seems like staying off drugs and alcohol and trying to do some positive stuff down at the rehab centers with kids and stuff. Like,
Awesome.
Seems like he's doing better.
What do you think, Talkin?
Maybe a lot of people don't know about Corey Chrysler as much. Did you have any stories with him? Because he was kind of a legend that left us too soon. But like, man, I remember I think his first Consolidated part or something. Like, there was a part he had that we watched a lot.
Well, it might have been the SMA one in Debunker with him.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, Debunker.
Yeah, that's a great part. Dude was like, so he also went to SoCal High. He's 2 years older than I was, I believe, or 1 year, a grade ahead. And so as soon as I like started going to high school and like knowing who the good skaters were or whatever, and just the best skaters in town, because there's also Jeremy Allen who rode for 8th Street. So he was like our most like famous dude at that time, aside from like Jaya, who did and didn't always live in Santa Cruz. But Corey was like, Corey also came from Scotts Valley too, which is where I grew up, a little on the woods.
Oh, wow.
And so to me, he was always like the benchmark of like, he was very on it as far as like gaps. Like, we're definitely part of like the, Frankie Hill younger generation that kind of saw what he could do. And then with Corey, it was always like ollieing over like pallets on their sides or fire hydrants, or just distance, like flat distance gaps. And I always felt like he was like pushing that stuff so hard. I remember, just because we were just talking about Andy and Corey, so whatever, if you know Andy, like Andy can look pretty like loped out at times, and he'd just gotten out of, I think, prison, right?
Okay.
And Corey too was also like massive and looked like super gangster, like,
yeah,
in his like older years or whatever, and like, by the time he was like 30 and up. So one time I'm working at NHS and I go out to get like a sandwich at the grocery store that's like right by NHS Days Market. And I'm like skating down the street, whatever, and I look up, and just like the two scariest looking dudes are sitting up front, like no shirts on, just super huge and yoked out, like crazy, like prison tattoos and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, it's Corey and Andy. Like, what's up, guys? And they're like, hey, like, they were so nice to me and like stoked to see me. And I was like, I'm so glad you guys are my friends. Like,
yeah, that's amazing. Corey, especially, because I knew Andy for so long that like I felt like I knew him. But Corey, I didn't know. So seeing him, like he always kind of like intimidated you just by appearance.
I think like if you knew him and people who knew him from Santa Cruz, like everybody kind of like looked to him. He was super funny. Always like kind of like, he was very straight up, very real, like told you what he was thinking, but he was also very funny at the same time. And as a skater at that time, like probably when I was like 15 and he was 17, because we both lived in Scotts Valley and he found out I had a video camera, he hit me up and we started like filming a little bit of stuff together. And I found those tapes recently and I was like, man, I can't believe like I got to like hang out. I learned like so much from him. Right. Even just weird, like sometimes industry things, or I don't know, a lot about like music, and they always were like on the cutting edge of whatever was like, I found out what was happening probably one of the first people I found out what was happening in the industry, not from like a magazine, like, because he was kind of like dancing all over the place. He rode for Real for a little bit. He rode for Powell and World Industries for a little bit, and kind of like rolled around. They did their things. Got into trouble too.
Yeah, for sure. Was that around the time that the Cannery starts going?
Yeah. So Cannery being the ramp section at NHS. I remember because I do remember riding for SMA, and Corey and Nick, because they rode for they had moved over to Consolidated too. So that's why I know Andy rode for Santa Cruz when we rode for SMA.
Oh yeah, Andy was a local at the Cannery.
Yeah, and I remember also he was like friends with Friel, who like, so our main screen printer.
Yeah,
worked at NHS forever, legend. And me and Israel being at one side of the parking lot, and then looking over and seeing like Andy and Friel on the other side of the parking lot as we're like waiting to get in to like skate the stuff, waiting for somebody to have a key or whatever. And them just like looking at us. And I remember like Israel, like talking to Israel, I was like, man, they do not like us. And later we all made friends, but it was just early.
Yeah.
Blood Wizard. Blood Wizard. Blood Wizard. Blood Wizard. Shop.bloodwizard.com.
Tickety tack.
Hey, it's Corey at Blue Plate, 3218 Mission Street. Come see us. Meatloaf, fried chicken, deviled eggs, Dollar Olympia beers. We're here every day of the week. We got a garden and we got smiles on our faces. Come let us make you happy.
What's up? This is Andy fucking Roy. Live life! Talkin Schmit 69 sick.
Was that it had to have been a big deal, right? Was that a pretty big shakeup when those dudes left for Consolidated?
Yeah.
Were they not allowed at the Cannery and stuff like that?
Absolutely not. In probably like the mid 90s, I lived with Jason Strubing, Skate Works, but I also lived with Moish and our friend Justin, and I think he worked there too. And then so I also rode for Consolidated Bearings, I remember at a time, and just going to skate their vert ramp and not really like understanding. And I definitely knew to ask NHS if it was okay. Consolidated Bearings. Like I knew there was weirdness, they didn't just take the team with them. They took team employees, and I think they took like a list of shops.
Damn.
We're talking about things that you don't have as far as like, it might be easy to find a list of shops now, but in 1990 or whatever, 93, was that probably like 92 or something, to have like a list of like retailers that you could reach out to and try and like build your brand, taking the stuff that they took from NHS and taking it over to Consolidated. I could see why. That's not cool.
I mean, Keenan and Birdo, they were like kind of important at Santa Cruz. Like they were doing Strange Notes, right? Like I think Birdo was doing a lot of that. Keenan was shooting a lot of photos. Alan Peterson's like a big deal. I mean, if you've ever seen his backside ollie at Marseille.
Alan, yeah, exactly. Alan was huge then. Alan was like, he was like third in every pro contest at that time. Like he was crushing.
Did Jason go originally too, or was that later?
No, I think they took Jason then too, which is like, yeah.
And Corey?
They basically took like the whole SM,
Yeah, that's
Jason from Santa Cruz too is like huge.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Cause I remember, like you said, skating that ramp at Consolidated. That was one of my favorite ones because I'm not like a huge vert skater, but that one was like, maybe it had a half a foot of vert or something. It was like a smaller vert ramp. So we could actually kind of do some stuff on it. But the sessions there were, I mean, Alan would blast into those pillows in the ceiling and
backside ollies. Yeah. I've never seen anybody do it like that. Like just ride through the coping. You try. So the first one, because there was two, right?
Yeah. I think I was at the first one.
Yeah, that's when I think of him doing those backside ollies where he would just bonk and like fly. Such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he was one of my favorites. I remember first time we saw him in person was at Kennedy Warehouse. That one you talk about, just the mini ramp next to the vert ramp. And he was over there and I saw him and I was like, oh my God, that's AP. And then he just put on a demo, like just such a good mini ramp skater, like, you know, and the style he had was like not like anyone else. It was his own. So it was impressionable to see him in person for sure. And the thing I wanted to say too about Andy Roy is, do you remember this? Because this sticks out for some reason, is he would always do 50-50s and try to make his trucks not on, like he would intentionally fuck his trucks up on 50-50s.
Try and put them on the deck.
Or like make them like not, like he would be like it would look like he was going to eat shit. He was like trying to do it wrong. Yeah. I just remember that for some reason. What this guy doing?
It's like true punk rock style, like on a skateboard, right?
Yeah. And then Todd Prince and the San Jose guys, like that was a huge growing up experience for me in skateboarding, like going and seeing Corey O'Brien and Prasenko and all those dudes skate the vert. And then when it moved to that area where they had the street course, that was the first time we saw Cardiel. He's trying to do backflips off the little loading dock thing. We're like, who the hell is this guy? But like there was so many good skaters that would come through there. And that opened up access to kind of meeting some of the friendlier guys and stuff. And I had Phil with me. So I kind of had a little in with like, hey, I'm with Phil, you know?
That's where I first remember seeing him in like some like weird, like floral board shorts. And I was like, this guy, like,
with long hair?
That doesn't dress like a skater.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good. Like,
yeah. He went from like total Hesher to like shaved head and like all like thinked out. It was like interesting.
Yeah, like when I first saw him at the Kennedy Warehouse or whatever, I was like, oh, this dude's like probably a little older, like used to skate, is kind of like just checking it out, phasing out again. And it was like, and then over the next few years, it was like, dude, like those Northampton contests where Tom Penny was discovered, right?
Mm-hmm.
At one of those, Phil, back when everybody had like a standard 8-foot long, 4-foot wide pyramid, right? Every park had a pyramid exactly like that.
Yeah.
He nollied it and switch ollied it, and it was the first time I'd seen anybody do anything like that.
Wow.
Like before like all those people that were there, even like Tom Penny and Costin, like just a straight switch ollie over a pyramid and just being like, oof, that looks like scary.
He was so good. It was crazy. And it just didn't look like it was hard for him. Everything he did. I remember he would drop in on the vert ramp and just do a feeble fakie across the entire vert ramp, first wall. I mean, I'm just like, what? Like it just seemed crazy. Like the stuff he would do, just like, I got this every time. Like, pleasure. So being in Santa Cruz and SMA, Sims, and everything, eventually it just goes to Santa Cruz?
Yeah, so what, there was...
But you turned pro for SMA.
For SMA, yeah.
Rad.
In 92. And then that was for like 2 years.
Was that with Julian?
No, so Julian... I was never teammates with Julian, I don't think.
And
he never went to Consolidated.
Oh. No. I think he went to Underworld Element or whatever.
Oh, okay.
I think Underworld Element and then Real and then
funny, I know that video was 1982.
Oh.
Right? That first Element video, I think, or whatever, is right around that time, so that makes sense.
Okay. So who was on the squad? Do you remember?
So Frank Rada, came over from Sims as well.
Okay.
Israel, Jason Adams.
Oh yeah.
And then Tim from New Deal.
Okay.
And so I think I had met Tim or seen him at the warehouse or something a little bit before, and we kind of knew him. And then just as soon as we all got like put on, and then Russ Pope was our team manager.
Oh, okay.
You know who my team manager for Sims was? Rob Roskopp.
Really?
My very first team manager was Rob Roskopp. And my very first tour in 1990, we went to the Midwest. And we went to Michigan and Ohio.
Where he grew up.
Indiana. Yeah. So it was a Sims tour. It was the flyers. But like everywhere we went, they like made their own flyers that was like Rob Roskopp and the Sims team. You know, like nobody came to see us, really. It was, and Rob did not go there to skate.
Yeah. Wow.
He almost always ended up skating anyway. And I don't think like people, you know, he has like some contest footage out there or like stuff skating vert ramps and stuff like, or sequences.
Mm-hmm.
But to see that dude in real life was also like, I was like, wow, like, you know, there's one thing seeing pros on videotape and wanting to be like, do the best tricks in the world like they're doing, or seeing somebody like Roskopp or Kendall in real life and being like, oh, that's how you do a Smith grind? You go from, like you said, Phil, from one end of the ramp all the way to the other.
Yeah. So Tim comes in and then you guys kind of bond a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Tim.
That dude never stopped skating. He skated so like all day, every day, and like first one skating, last one skating, like one of the, like an Ishad Ware type guy.
There were so many days when, after like the third day of me and Israel just being like, yeah, I'm just like roasted or whatever. Like we'll see, you know, like try and skate as much as Tim today. And then there would be one day where he'd be like, dudes, I just can't, like, I'm not skating today. Right. And we just knew it was a lie. It was the biggest joke to us because it'd be like, we just finished breakfast and you're like already like soaked, like skating whatever. And the demo hasn't even started yet. And you're just like having a blast. And next thing you know, we're skating with them. And I think, well, okay, Israel's like that too already. I grew up with Israel, and Israel will like skate all day long. And then so now we meet Tim, and so we're hanging out with him. And I think between like skating with those two dudes so much, I probably owe them so much for just making me skate so much.
Right. I'm trying to think of I think it was called Goin Off. It's it feels, I always say this and maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like a precursor to City Boys, like it's the Santa Cruz version almost. Like it's all filmed on Super 8, and Jaya has a lot of stuff in it. He's almost like a main guy that keeps weaving in and out of the video, going around the town and all that stuff.
Sick Boys, right?
Well, Sick Boys was the San Francisco one, and then Goin Off was the one in Santa Cruz.
Yeah. Yep.
And I just remember coming to Santa Cruz and seeing a lot of stuff, and people would be like, Jaya did this, Israel did this, Ron did this. Like you guys were a threesome of like, and Israel a lot. Like Israel, like he killed this, he did that. Look at this thing that he did. I remember like a lot of people would be from down there telling us these things, and so that's kind of when I got to know who Israel was, you know.
He got on so because like I said, he was like tiny and he would skate derby, and he grew up in downtown Santa Cruz, so he started skating derby at like a super young age. Learned all the etiquette and stuff. Like he said, like there was times like he basically would go to derby, watch people skate until he was allowed to, which was when everybody left. And then he finally got a chance, like as a little kid, to like learn. And so I don't know, like just, he was probably like the youngest person I knew to start skating at like such a young age. And then, like I said, I met him when he was 11, and he already sort of rode for Grind King. And he was also like the first person I knew that was like sort of sponsored by whatever Grind King was Or maybe it was Cockroach Wheels or something like that. But anyway, they came through. Somebody went to Derby and they saw this kid, and it's like, you're on Grind King now. And we were like, damn, like it's sponsored. So everybody like, he was a cool 11-year-old.
Damn. Oh yeah. How early is this when you're starting to meet Tim? Like, are you a part of seeing the BMC form and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, because okay, so when Tim and Jason got on SMA, they were really like tight.
Yeah.
And even had like they had that Wonder Twins board, like they both like shared one kind of almost too.
Oh, I don't remember that.
And so also and they were hanging with Jai Tanju, right? And so they like the Beautiful Men's Club.
You're a beautiful man.
Right.
I think Solomon had something to do with that as well.
Yeah, and I think Todd and JJ.
Okay.
I think.
So I wouldn't be there for probably a lot of the night San Jose stuff, but like just knowing all those dudes and knowing Jason and be over there, we'd probably go skating with them, and then we would miss like the bar scene, like probably go back to Santa Cruz before that. But so Tim and Jason were tight, and they came over to like SMA as friends, and then Russ ended up leaving to do Creature, and he took Jason Adams with him.
Mm-hmm.
And we meaning me, Tim, and Israel, didn't really like know that was going to happen, and so we're just kind of also felt like they ditched us a little bit, and whatever. That was like nothing. Like I love Jason and Russ, and we're all still good friends or whatever.
Yeah.
But like you didn't tell us you're going to go do Creature or like invite us or anything, like, you know,
right? Breaking up the crew.
Yeah. And then so from there on, I did like I've been everywhere with Tim and Israel, like on trips, and we like skated so much, and like just the like love that those dudes have for skateboarding. Like I said, you could never get either of them to stop. So we just had so much fun, and it turned into like, you know, a weird, I don't want to say like competition, but it's like I wouldn't go anywhere with those dudes and expect that I was like I wouldn't like disrespect myself by sitting down. Like I was like, nope, better get up there and like a dumb like almost like zombie competition. Like how long do you want to just keep skating this mini ramp?
Yeah, they push you. So was Jaya ever part of? He was on Sims but not SMA, or? Oh,
Jaya was on Santa Cruz the entire time. So it was nothing to do with him. He was like Santa Cruz Am to Pro all the way to Adrenaline, I guess, right?
Yeah. When you were talking about the slick bottoms, I mean, I don't know how much time you're spending like at NHS in that era, but like I think at some point you're kind of in there more often because you live down there and you can hang out in the warehouse or whatever. And I'm wondering like about, because I think you were one of the guys that would mess around with skateboards a lot. Like I remember Nodis, he would do 2 cell blocks in the front and 1 in the back. And then people were changing bolts and using rip grip in certain ways. Like, do you remember kind of that era, like playing around with your board and trying to see if there was some little gimmick that would work for ollie or anything?
You know, I guess as soon as I was amateur for NHS, as Sims or anything, they introduced me to Tim Pumarta. And Tim was like, you know, like they're very good about immediately reaching to the youngest people and being like, you're our R&D people. What shapes would you like to see? So we immediately got to make like weird shapes, or they would give us like, as soon as you brought up Everslick, the first thing I thought of, and Jaya was, well, his one with the girl with the sticker that peeled off the top.
It's all time. That's the one I always think of.
But the second thing I thought about was like, oh yeah, that's when we were testing all the different new Everslicks. So there was the racing ones, and all they had was like a screen print of like a number.
Yeah.
With like a car, like racing. Those ones were the fastest ones, like whatever it was. And that was kind of like, I don't know, because it did well at NHS and Everslick was like such a popular thing for a second, like, and the way Tim is and our R&D department is, they just really like owned the shit out of it and like took it like, tried to make it better and better until everybody was just like, we don't care about Everslick anymore. Like, whatever. Like, the industry with, Everslick goes through phases. But so Jaya was definitely on that list of like people that would R&D stuff. A lot of the like OG shape, even for like, I want to say Alan Petersen and Jaya's shape, some of the original ones were from Aaron Lucier, who was amateur for Santa Cruz and lived in Santa Cruz at the time.
Yeah.
And like you said, because I lived in Santa Cruz throughout my entire like pro career, I got so many benefits from just, all I got to do is I just go by. I'm like, coming through a couple times a week, go to the art department. It's like, oh, what's that graphic? Can I have that one? Or like, there's a series of 5 ones, and it's like, well, let me get the one that I think is sick.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, like, Tim would give us stuff that had like, it'd be a weird deck construction, or it'd be some Everslick thing. I rode one time, he gave me this board that looked like clear honeycombs. Like it was some sort of like resin futuristic thing. I put it together and just smashed it into pieces like immediately. All like work to try and make those like new wood boards. Remember we tried to make plastic?
Yeah.
Like they flexed a little bit, but they really didn't break.
That's different because there was the foam Kevlar too, right? The ones that were like only for vert. They were like weird, like hollow maybe.
The foam tech ones, like Slasher foam tech. So that was fiberglass around like a little foam insert.
Yeah.
So that was before my time.
Feds used to ride those.
Yeah. Those were sick. Zerosh and Israel both like have one now. Like,
oh, really? Of course, Zerosh does.
Yeah. But it was really cool to see and be a part of, and like immediately and be invited to make shapes.
Right.
And to test all that stuff and just whatever, like, go destroy this.
Was there any like early tours that were like super impressionable, like in your early days where you're like, man, this one I'll always remember, or like bonding with dudes, or hecticness, like getting to Europe for the first time maybe, or?
Probably like 10.
Yeah, of course.
Throughout all the different years of just like amazing ones. The first one that came to mind is that one with Roskopp, because we did Midwest with him. Yeah. And I think it was just me. I think Greg Kizik was with us, and then maybe one of the other SoCal Sims riders too. But it was just like, I could see why he made the headliner on all that stuff. That like nobody knew who we were. They were like that nobody knew of. And then anything with all the like Tim and Israel ones. There was a good one with Kendall and Tim and Israel and Thomas Campbell and Ryan Annengalen. And it was the first time I ever went to Europe. And so we went okay, here's one from that trip. First place we go to is that Northampton contest where Tom Penny's discovered, and I talk about Phil Shaw thing. So it was back when there's no 7-Elevens in Europe or anything like that. We get off the plane, we finally like make it to Northampton out of London, just zorged, and we get in to go to our hotel, and we walk past this pub, and I'm like already nervous because it's like I'm seeing like hero skaters out here, like, oh my god, did you see who that was? Like,
yeah,
like, don't sweat, like I gotta skate against these people like tomorrow or whatever, and this is bizarre. And somebody even told us we're gonna go out tonight, we're gonna go to the pubs, and people were like, be careful. It's like, what do you mean? Like they like to fight here. It's like, oh, okay. And so we're walking, still daylight, and we're walking towards the hotel, and we walk past this pub, and no joke, Ed Templeton is there, and he's holding the neck of this dude against the sidewalk, and he's basically trying to hold the blood in the dude's neck. The dude had gotten to some bar fight, and this was like a random British guy, and somebody broke the pint glass and stabbed him in the neck. He went outside and like was basically like dying out in front of this pub.
Fuck.
And Ed, being Ed, of course,
Yeah.
saved the guy, you know, like it wasn't just, a lot of us were just like, what the hell is it? You know, just keep walking by or whatever. And it was just like Ed's trying to like clamp his neck down and keep the blood in him.
Fuck.
I think from what I heard, I don't know if the dude made it, you know, like they weren't sure, but it didn't sound like he did. Ed would know.
Yeah.
And then the next day we go to that, you know, is it Northampton or Southampton? I always get that wrong. People get mad at me. I think it might be Southampton.
South? Okay. I thought it was north, but I don't really know.
Yeah. Anyway, the famous contests back in 1994 or 3, where like Tom was discovered basically, because that was his park, and we all went to his park and got to see him do what he does. It was amazing.
Yeah. I mean, the first time you see Tom Penny, you're pretty impressed, right? Fuck.
Yeah.
There's some guys that, I mean, there's a lot of guys like that, but there's some guys that are just like, it's just a notch above. Like, you know, everybody's great, but then there's some guys that are just like, holy shit. I remember seeing Tom, for some reason, that footage at the Huntington Park always sticks out, where he's just floating around, just frontside flipping, and just like, he kind of, in a way, Phil had the same vibe, where it was like, I'm not trying hard and I'm doing good stuff.
Yeah. When I first got on like Etnies or something, I basically went to Huntington to go visit somebody, or to go, I don't know, maybe to like do some Etnies thing or whatever, and went to the Huntington Beach Park. I think it had lights or just enough light. And I went there, I can't remember who with, but it was just me and another friend. And Tom Penny rolled up, and it was like kind of dark. And he like, I don't want to, you know, he just was doing his thing. It wasn't a demo, but it was so insane.
Yeah.
You know how, first of all, if you don't know what park we're talking about, this park sucks.
Yeah.
It's like a sandbox of like like compared to any park you think that sucks now. Like this park was awful, right? And tiny. And it all had this little brick wall that surrounded, and yet somehow he was going so fast through the place, the super steep banks and like nollie backside flipping over him. But at one point he just was like hauled ass towards the flat bar, and I was like, why is he going at the flat bar sideways? And he nollie flipped it and landed and still like carved again. Like you have to know that park or whatever. Like it's like the OG flat bar. Every 4-on-1 had that park in there, right?
Yeah, I mean, everybody lived right by there. When you were skating on Santa Cruz, was Kendall still pro for Santa Cruz at that time?
When I was on SMA, he was pro for Santa Cruz, because we went to that Bricktown contest in New Jersey, or also the one that's at the what are those banks called? The Brooklyn banks.
Brooklyn banks.
That going to be a contest, and then it just turned into some wild demo but I remember being in the van with Knox, Kendall, probably Jaya, and it was that same Bricktown one where Cardiel did the 540 on that vert ramp without pads and really like made his name.
Oh, that was Cardiel's padless. That was the first 5 he did, and he was padless.
That was that Bricktown one, or at least the first one that was like, I remember seeing
in a video.
I remember thinking that he had was learning it then.
Yeah, I think so. It sounds right. Huh.
So I'm with Tim, this classic early in the game story. It's 1992, and I'm with him, and always like the worst idea. Like I'm already, like I told you, I get nervous at contests. Like I don't like that. Like whatever. Like it's something you just have to do.
Yeah.
And so I'm already like nervous about my run. And he's like, hey, you want to go like, we're going to smoke weed with these guys. Do you want to come with me? And I was like, oh, hell yeah. Like just bad idea. Like, let me just get more paranoid. And we like go out the door, and it's with Coco and Sheffy.
Oh.
And I just remember being like, wow, like first of all, like now I'm getting baked, and now I'm getting nervous. And I was like, man, that's Sheffy and that's Coco. Like, and that's how Tim was. Like Tim was friends with everyone. That was one of the coolest things about Tim, was like the FTC dudes seemed to like him for some reason, which surprised the hell out of me. Like, because Tim was such like a ramp ATV, jean shorts type of like everyman kind of guy. And like, I want to say, like, remember the Sacramento contest when Simon Woodstock and when they were riding the skimboards or whatever. I remember like there was two sections of pro skaters. There was like the cool guys in the white shoes, girl, and FTC people, chocolate girl, and then there was like the rest of us over on the other side, right?
Yeah.
And somehow like Tim like transcended that. Like he could be like everybody liked him.
Yep. He was very personable and he was just like always happy, like smiling and friendly. So it was, I don't know. It was, but I mean,
what you're getting too. It was like the dude straight up.
Plus he was he was kind of the guy for what he did. It was like, you know, like he was doing a lot of blunt variations and stuff before. I mean, he was kind of known as the blunt guy back then for a minute. And so people were probably just stoked to see his style of skating.
Yeah. And just, infectious on how much loving it rubs off.
When does the kickflip stale grab come in? Like that's kind of the moneymaker.
I would say it was the kickflip melon first.
Okay.
That one got me going, which is funny because shout out Michael Bryan.
Shout out.
Love you guy. He told me I would never make it with kickflips. And I remember like every time I did a kickflip melon over some pyramid at a contest or whatever, just being like thinking of him. Like there was a Tampa 95. I remember doing kickflip lean over a hip. And it was funny because this is something like it's a like no complies. It's a Matt Hensley trick from 4 years before kickflip melon had already been like done, like all of them. But I think when I started doing it again, it was more like people were starting to do kickflips like high and catch them high. And that made it easier for me to grab it and then you could do more or whatever. And then I went to that Tampa Pro, and I think I learned like hard flip indies grabs after that.
I'm not claiming.
And then later kickflip stalefish, like a front side. That was a Cannery thing. I think I learned it at the Cannery on the day.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Over the hip.
Yeah. And then I think basically when the kickflip melon worked out for me and I realized this was like, oh, I can rehash this old thing and like, kind of give myself uniqueness. And then, it also worked for contests and stuff. So after I figured out that one, then I remember learning frontside shove it, frontside grab, and also hard flip frontside grab. And then wanting to do, and then kickflip stalefish eventually too. And it was stuff like a lot of people would do kickflip indies and stuff, and it'll be way away from your feet, right? I always tried to like get it on my feet and then grab. So it was kind of like evolution. I'm thinking about Gershon right now.
I just saw him a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, hadn't seen him in forever.
My kickflip grabbing guys from that time, I want to shout out Gershon.
Shout out.
And Mako Urabe.
Oh, right? Yeah.
But he had the 360 flip.
Mako 360 flip Benihana, right?
And that was his. Israel and Charlie Wilkins, classic heel flip indie dudes, right?
Yeah.
That was a good heel flip indie. And that was, probably most of it.
Yeah, some people do it like I think Omar calls it the money grab, right? Where it's like kind of away from you and then you put it under. And then some people kind of do the opposite where it's like more the kick flip and then the grab is secondary. You know what I'm saying? Like one of them kind of goes out, like you were saying, and the other one's just like already under your feet.
I think that's why I got excited in doing it again too, because when I learned it like that, I was shooting some sequence with Kendall and Israel. And I remember trying to kickflip over like, one of those like warning barriers that has like a little like orange light on top, whatever, off this bank, and trying it. And I was like, wow, this would be like the biggest kickflip I ever done, but I couldn't quite keep it on my feet. And then I tried one grabbing and it ended up like doing the kickflip bigger and then like boned out all crazy. And it was like, oh, hell yeah. Like, what's this? Like, it's a new thing.
You're taller than most people on skateboard. Like, were you a fan of like Neil Blender and some of the other big guys? Like, did you think along those lines, or was it like, no, I'm just looking at skaters as skaters? Like, I'm wondering if there was anything like that was a little more difficult for you or a little easier for you because of your height.
As far as like actually like tallest, I think it's me, Sean Payne,
Oh
and
yeah,
Hill are all 6'7". I might be
Sean
right.
Payne was a lanky, tall guy too. That guy ripped on a skimboard. He was
Wow, I didn't,
yeah, he's a Hawaii guy.
it was so good. Yeah.
Mm.
But I remember like, well, it definitely, I think, gave me a career, right, as a pro skater, because it made like uniqueness, and like I kind of realized that was like part of the gimmick. But then people would always ask me about that, and they'd be like, "Wow, is it hard to skate being tall?" And I was like, ever since kindergarten, I was in the back of the photos. Like, I don't know anything else than what it is to be like the tallest kid in the class, or, you know, weird and lanky. I say more so it was like getting compliments from skaters I looked up to that were just like, hey, for like a tall skater, like I like watching it. I was like, wow, thanks. You know, like that helped.
Yeah.
But I know what Tony Hawk's 6'2" or 6'3", right?
Mm-hmm.
I always was a big fan of Kenny Hughes.
Oh yeah.
But he was like
he's
a
diesel though. Yeah.
Like shoulder 6'4". So that, you know, I don't think I really like had that many people to like kind of like look up to in that way, you know, because there just weren't really. I didn't think about that with Neil. Like with Neil, it was more like kind of like looked up to him just for like the Neil vibe.
I love Neil Blender, man.
I knew I was like stoked on Ben Schroeder because Ben Schroeder's up there like 6 something. I can't even think about who I would have like paid attention to during that era. You know, I probably would have like, I was a big Jeff Phillips fan and had like, you know, I've been a little younger or him like live a little longer. Thankfully, he's got footage you can see. You go back to some of those like Houston videos.
Mm-hmm.
They made like, there's a sick ass Bad Boy Club video out there that he's got a bunch of stuff in. Right?
Yeah, and he usually had a section in almost every contest video.
Yeah. Oh my God, and he was amazing. I think he was up there too. He was probably like 6'3" or something.
I think Jake used to say that he was the only guy that could do a McTwist out of an invert, like an invert on one wall and the next wall do a McTwist.
Which, yeah, probably a lot of leg power. And
yeah.
You know what? Like he looked Texas strong too. Like he didn't wear much clothing either, right?
They always had the soy shirts.
Bad. Yeah, he looked good in that. So he must, in order to be that tall and look that good in that gear, he must have been kind of ripped, you know.
Do you remember the situation for the Thrasher cover?
Yes. Man, so I didn't have a car at the time. Bryce calls me and he says, do you want to shoot tomorrow in the city? I was like, yeah. Or you know, what's up? And he was like, well, it might be for the cover, which is crazy that he actually said that.
Right? Yeah, that doesn't get said much.
No. Offered like Thrasher, but by that time, thankfully, I knew the importance of it. And I remember not having a car, and I was like, I'll be there. And I like woke up at 5 and took the bus to the Caltrans, because you got to take a bus from Santa Cruz to San Jose.
Yeah, and then the train.
And he maybe met me at the train station, and he also told me it was like, it's going to be the jump ramp issue. He didn't tell me anything about Skater of the Year. That was Chris N's Sony cover that I was getting.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that is the only thing I didn't know. He told me it was going to be the jump ramp issue, and he told me I had a chance at having the cover. And I was like, I'll be there. And so we shot. He's like, do you have anything in mind? And I was like, what about like putting the jump ramp up to like a garbage dumpster, and I'll do something on, you know, the edge of it. And I did a backside 5-0 and a back tail on one of those ones that's like 5 feet off the ground and just that lip, and you could fall inside the thing, right? So it was scary. And I remember being stoked. Like I said, I was going to do this thing. I went up there and I did it. And I think that footage is in, I just don't know the name of what that Thrasher video is, you know, because it was in the time of like,
Was it an early one, right? It was probably like Truth Hurts or maybe 911.
Yeah, it had a crazy name. It was maybe even before those, like, it was maybe even before the ones that had like the article names. It was like, maybe it was like before 911. It's an early 90s one.
Okay.
Because I've been wondering where that footage is because, right?
Who filmed it, Safa?
We did the dumpster stuff. I don't know. We went and did that dumpster thing, and I'm like happy. I was like, man, if I get, well, whatever, if this cover or no, like I'm happy about like a jump ramp back tail and like one of those like tall dumpsters. I was like, hell yeah. And then he's like, well, do you want to go out to the sunset? And there's like, I know of like this car that like you could jump over. I was like, okay. I was like, that's, I'll do that. Like, absolutely. I'm here to do what you asked me to do. Like, I understand the, opportunity.
Yeah.
But in my head being like, well, I think I could do something better than just like jump ramp over a car, like it was like a little one too, and it was off a curb.
Uh-huh.
And that's what ended up being the cover, of course, was like jump ramping over the car.
Bang, bang, Niner gang.
At the time being like, oh, why didn't they use the dumpster one? And then, but just like so thankful to even have a cover. And it's like the picture he took, the board's looking clean. There's Skate Works, Crux, absolute, like I got like
photo incentive.
Excellent photo incentive from that one, from like everybody involved. It was very clear.
Yeah, man. Those are the moments when you get like, you get your sticker job and it works out, and then all of a sudden you get ching ching.
And then I just remember riding the train home again after that and being very like satisfied with like whatever happened. Like I did what I was supposed to today. And like, at that age, I don't think people understand. Well, I mean, whatever, people totally understand, but to like sacrifice like your social life entirely and just like anything, any plans I had to do tomorrow, like friends, whatever, like, sorry guys, like I'm just gone. Like I'm gonna go do this fucking thing and like hopefully get a photo.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I had like a ton of footage in my career enough, but like making friends, making good like relationships with photographers, I think helped me out a ton.
Especially in that era, photos were so, getting in the, in the mag is a big deal. And especially when, ads are cool, but non-ads are even cooler. Like you get some like content page, or you get like an article and you get a full page in that or something. And then if you're lucky enough to get a cover or the back cover, there's only like, I think 4 people in the history of Thrasher that have had the front cover and the back cover. I know Jason Adams and Jeff Phillips are 2 of them, where they had the front cover of the mag and the back cover of the mag.
On the same issue.
Yeah, same issue.
I know I'm on the back of Tim's cover.
Oh, really?
Like an SMA on the back, on the back of that one.
So you mentioned the Chris Sen Skater of the Year thing. Was that a controversial thing?
Not between Chris, like Tim, super nice guy. I feel like, everybody got I don't know if everybody got along with Chris, but I definitely did. And like, we were always friends, and he never brought that up to me. And I didn't really ever, whatever. I was probably so enamored with myself making the cover that I never really even like paid attention to the fact that I was like taking Chris's shine, that he should, I don't know how many people have missed. Is that the only
dude? Because working at Thrasher, like I hear some shit. And one of the things Jake said over and over, he must have had a little beef with Chris or something, but he's like, only Skater of the Year to not get a cover. Like that was always a thing. And I didn't realize you're the one that had the cover that month. But, Jake always gets digs on everyone. But on this, it seemed like a little bit more for Chris. So I don't know if there was some personal thing or whatever. And Chris is so mellow. He's probably like, I don't give a fuck. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's dude, Chris is the homie. Like he's just down for the cause. So it's like,
we were already like sort of friends by then. And like later throughout the years, I think we're even like better friends, and that never even like came up,
Yeah, like I don't think so. I think it probably was more like between Jake and Bryce maybe, or something like behind the scenes stuff or whatever.
I don't think I would have taken the 5 a.m. bus if he hadn't said, like, I'm
Cover.
pretty, it was like the word cover was like said to me before. Like, it's funny, like if I had been to like him and I was like, I'm gonna do this thing, and he's like, well, cool, you do that, you might get the cover. No, it was like, come over and like we're gonna shoot a cover tomorrow. I was like,
I bet it was probably like on deadline, like they're like, fuck, we need a cover. So, when he mentions it like that, it's probably like, we need one so bad, I got to give this guy some incentive to make sure, like, who knows? That'd be a question for Bryce, but that's really cool. I mean, that's such an honor to have a cover in Thrasher. It's like people that get them, they're always like, I mean, Alyssa just got her first cover this month ever for Thrasher.
Wow.
And I mean, she's the greatest of all time, right? For ladies and one of the greatest just period. So it's, you never know. There's a lot of people that like Grosso didn't get a cover till he was passed. Like it's a really privileged thing to have a cover. And I think, yeah, those are things that maybe people take for granted nowadays because of such media blitzes and everything. But I think like the people that have been around for a long time realize that like there's a lot that goes into it. Like you might be doing the gnarliest trick, but the photo might not be well or vice versa. And, I've seen so many like that's the cover because of the move, but then the photo doesn't really translate and whatever. Talk to the butcher about it. He went for the cover like 5 times. He's like, I'm going for it, dude. And then
he tried the gnarliest thing. Where it's like
he only that double set that was a think ad, and he was just like, fuck.
The car I jumped was like this tiny European thing that was like I jumped over the hood. It wasn't big. It's from a jump ramp. The jump ramp's on the curb on the sidewalk too. Makes it even easier. And I was just like,
it's kind of similar. Like Wade Spire had a similar cover where he's doing it off like I think a cement kicker, maybe like a sidewalk kicker or something. But he's got like a tuck knee, like just little air in the streets.
One other thing about the cover is I had it the month after Strubing got his. Justin Strubing had the cover, and then I got the month after too.
Oh, so back to back.
Boulder Creek, Scotts Valley, back to back.
Damn, that rips.
Holy crap, I remember that.
Hell yeah, there's a party at Skate Works that week.
I can't remember like whatever from like NHS for the sponsors. It was like, I don't know if it was 1,000 per logo or something like that, but it was like I was stoked. Like the stickers I got or whatever. Full Skateworks sticker on there. Jason got me a bottle of Crown Royale and we drank it.
Nice. Oh, dude, that's cool. Was that like one of the bigger months for, like, were you getting paid board royalties most of your time as a pro?
It would be like,
or was there like just a minimum, or like was there just
I had like a minimum. I want to say my minimum was somewhere between like 1,000 and 1,300. Maybe 1250 was like the minimum ever was. Just for board. And then usually I had like, anywhere between 100 and 200 for wheels, 100 and 200 for trucks. And then most of that was coming from NHS. But then, rode for Absolute and Circuit. Did have some outside wheel stuff. Ezekiel clothing too.
Oh yeah. That's right.
They had a logo that was like the Olympics rings, and that's like on that board.
What was the one Tim had that had like kind of the bird graphic?
He was super into birds.
Wasn't it a clothing company that was maybe out of Sessions or something? Like
Esty?
Esty, yeah.
Which it was ESTE. That name originally came from S&T because it was Solomon and Tim.
Oh.
It was their clothing company through Sessions.
Mind blowing.
I like knowing these little things.
He loved birds and like ibises, like that kind of thing. I saw one like next to me the other day or whatever, and it was like, Tim must be watching.
You ever see or talk to his girlfriend? I forget her name, but she used to. Yeah, they used to come to our ramp all the time. Her, him, and Jason, and she would just kick in. She was super cool.
Yep. Of course, being good friends with him. Like, as soon as I think I was even there for his like 19th birthday party. You know, like we really like became like, even though like I just met him that year, like we were like hanging out like all the time. And like I always thought like I was going to move to San Jose, but I would live close enough, and like we would spend so much time on tour and stuff, or he'd come over here, that I never really did. Would hang out with Karina and Jai a ton, and Jason Adams, of course.
I love the movie North Shore.
Yeah, good people.
Crazy Eddie would always be around.
Oh, yeah.
Lance
Yep.
Delgado.
Yeah. He was wicked fresh.
Often like Kendall would be there doing whatever. So Kendall was also my team manager as well.
Okay.
Jeff and Jeff Kendall have been my team managers. That's pretty insane.
So my Magic Mind experience is coming to an end at the end of January here. And also what's coming to the end is their offer. So I strongly suggest, if you're interested at all, dive in before February 1st. And remember, www.magicmind.com/Jan Schmit. And the code is Schmit20, and you're going to get like 75% off.
Schmit20.
So if you're trying to get some focus and get out on them streets early before the sun comes up,
Schmit20.
and have just more of a level day instead of spiking up and down constantly from sugar or caffeine or any of that stuff, Magic Mind is the ticket. MAGI to the C. MIN to the
Mother
D. Get there while you can. You know what I mean?
Schmit20.
Doesn't automatically mean you'll be going to Super Bowl.
Bang bang Niner gang.
Hi there, interworld of webs, cast, podding. This is Cranny. You're listening to Schmit Talk, Talkin Schmit. Talk some Schmit. Put it in your ear hole. Find out about your world.
Like, did you ever kind of in the back of your mind, you're like, I want to do this for as long as I can. Like if my career is over as a pro, I'm going to move into the, start doing stuff behind the scenes. You eventually are working with Crux and probably doing a bunch of product developing and stuff with all the different things that are going. But moving backwards, like when you're just a pro skater, are you thinking, because NHS kind of runs like a family, like a lot of those guys have worked their way through it in different ways. Are you thinking about like, this is my career?
I actually thought, well, man, that's crazy. I've been thinking about this. I've been doing some writing lately, and I was thinking about how as soon as I turned pro, well, even before you ever turned pro, first of all, people are telling you, you're never going to be pro, or you can't skateboard forever, or any of those things, right?
Yeah.
And then as soon as you're pro, it's like, hey, this isn't going to last long, right? And then so like, it's funny because I, felt like by the time I'm like 25, I felt like grizzled, and like worried about that, and also thinking, I thought I would do something else. I didn't think I was going to work at NHS. So I didn't think as far as that avenue.
Okay.
But Kendall really looked out for me, and he gave me the opportunity to be Crux team manager while I was still pro. I think I did that for like 6 months, but was still skating well enough, or like had enough going on to where I was like, hey, I think I'm going to just go back to focusing on just being pro. And he really looked out for me and was like, hey, just so you know, when this will be there for you when you're done. I don't know if he said it just like that, but made me feel like it wasn't an impossibility to go back to that.
Okay.
And then so that was, I was no longer pro. That offer was there, except for the team and brand manage.
What's the biggest difference from Jeff Kendall, the skater / team manager, to Jeff Kendall, what is he? He's like CEO now, or what is he?
Yeah, he's the guy.
Yeah.
The difference wasn't like immediate, when we were on tour, that was another thing. So like, he is like, we get to see a lot of talented skateboarders, right? That's what I was saying, like seeing Roskopp not even in his element, like past even like giving a shit, just kind of like, hey, I'm going to skate with you guys this mini ramp, and just blown me away. Same thing with Kendall, like It's like, damn, like that's how you do it. Like you don't like. I grew up skating ramps, mini ramps, and stuff all the time. Did a million Smith grinds. Have 100 homies who can do Smith grinds. We can all do good Smith grinds, whatever. And then I skate some mini ramp, and he's just like there with us, and like, well, whatever. I'll take a run, and like Smith sits from end to end, and it's locked in, and it's like I was like, oh, see, like, man, like from top to bottom, like you're holding your body in like a pose. Like true like professionalism from like top to bottom. Like not only like you don't just do a Smith, like present the best Smith anybody will ever have seen in their life.
Yeah.
Like how he skated.
I remember seeing him at SJ Warehouse. We were talking about Kendall today for some reason. Oh, because I work with Kevin Braun's my side guy.
Shout out.
He works.
No way.
Yeah, he works next to me in my office, and we're having a great time. I love that guy. I didn't really know him till this, but we were talking about Kendall. I was like, dude, that dude used to rip the SJ Warehouse. Like he was one of the first people I saw doing a no-handed, like he would try 360 or 540 on the mini ramp, not grabbing, like he was like pushing along with the push of anything that was going in those days. I never really saw him skate vert. I just saw him skate that spine ramp, and like he was one of the guys that you were stoked to see skate that thing.
When fast forwarding to the Cannery now, when he maybe has that bass cat board and doesn't really like his pro career is ending for Santa Cruz, and he's working as our team manager or whatever.
Yeah,
helping me out with stuff. Like he would still skate with us at like lunchtimes in there. And I saw him do a kickflip backside nose blunt on the quarter pipe.
Damn.
Which I'd never seen anybody do in real life until that point. I think somebody had done it, but I saw him do one like nice. I saw him learn like switch 360 flips on flat, do like it was either nose wheelie, nollie heel, or like nollie heel manual, and like learn it really quick. And I was just being like, dude, just kind of screwing around over here. Like you're so good at street even.
Tricks are for kids. I don't do tricks. I just roll.
Yeah. It's sick for you guys to have that facility, man. And like the little zone outside where you got the curbs and stuff, like having those breaks and stuff. I've been trying to get Tony to repave our parking lot so we can have a few obstacles to skate around on.
That's what we need too. That's the problem, is our parking lot is super rough.
Yeah, ours is mangled. There's no way. Dude, we got to talk about your first time to China. I just remember that. Being like the tall guy, and wasn't everybody trying to touch you? Like they couldn't even believe it.
We went to Hong Kong and Shenzhen in 2003.
Uh-huh.
And I think that was before Shanghai was like the new Barcelona or whatever. We just went there because I want to say it was the beginning. Anthony Clairval, reached out to somebody, and that's we went out there. And then the Crux people, so I think Caswell was out there with us, maybe we, and then it was also Windsor James's first Crux trip because he rode for Crux. Man, we're all in like the line at the airport in customs or whatever. It's like an hour-long thing. We finally get to the front. I was like, oh my God, thank God, and have all this stuff. And everybody's like pulling out their passports. And I was like, I left my passport at home. Ooh. And so I was like, I'm going to go home and I'll probably see you guys tomorrow because I'm missing this flight. Right. And then the one I get on the next day, Windsor had done exactly the same thing. So we flew together.
Oh, wow.
And we show up in Hong Kong together. And anywhere me and him went, because this was like Windsor when he was in the really big pressed jeans, like creased them, like gigantic 50 cent gear, right?
Yeah.
And then me, I think I didn't have a mohawk or anything, but I was probably like dressing a little weird. And just between the two of us, everybody would just stop what they were doing and just like, and so it was Shenzhen didn't have like all paved roads yet. There was still a bunch of spots, but it was new. And like you said, there at nighttime, we would go whatever we were going to do, go shopping or go get food. And we'd be walking down the main street, and all of a sudden people would just start following us. And it would be a big crowd, like walking with us, like we were like an entourage. and they would start getting closer and closer and closer to where you started to feel like you were like getting boxed in and whatever. Was probably pretty drunk at the time, and I can like roar really loud. Like I can even make like, I can't do it right now, but like just like a rough one, especially if I'm drunk. So every now and again, I would wait until they all just got super close, just like try and just do like the biggest Hulk scream I can. And it was like dropping like dish soap in oil. They would just like, everybody would just blow apart and just run away from us. Right? And we'd keep walking down the street and they'd slowly start doing it again and boxing us in. And I think that's like, yeah, Louis might call me Ronzilla and Caswell.
That's amazing, Ronzilla. You need that graphic.
I think Haslam was on that trip. There was a bunch of people that weren't on Crux that we were with. Haslam was there. Flo and Alex Carolino were there, like when they were like at their best too. It was such a fun trip.
That rips. Is Crux still going?
Crux is still going. So I ran it for 17 years.
Yeah.
Right. Whatever, 2002 to 2019. And then after that, Alex White came in and took over for me.
Yep.
And, you know, I moved on to other things.
Oh.
And then now he doesn't work there anymore, but Crux is still kicking. And we're kind of like team effort, you know, there's not one specific brand manager just yet. I think I might be helping out with that too. And I still ride Crux and like definitely want to be a part of like helping it exist.
Man of many hats.
Yeah. Mostly video content stuff lately for our products.
Okay.
But yeah, we've all been kind of talking about that, like who's going to kind of like, you know, where Crux is going right now. And
you know,
I mean, always be that I mean, I'm pretty sure it'll always be the vibe of what it is, like the fun truck company.
Right.
But,
yeah. I wonder if we're ever going to see the IKP again.
I get one more shinner, I'm go berserk. Dolphin flips, how do they work?
I don't know if I'll be able to get Joel into face paint. It sucks wearing face paint.
Who is that guy? Who's the other guy?
That's Joel Ellis, and he's one of our leaders in the sales department.
Oh, he works there too.
I think he's heads domestic sales at NHS.
Who came up with that idea? Was that your idea?
That was, yeah, because we'd seen, man, this is like before YouTube. Remember, like the Insane Clown Posse made that Miracles.
Yeah. Gravity. How the fuck does that work?
Yeah. So we just were all watching that in the office, and at the time I was hanging out with Joel and my friend Larson, who works there in our web department. And Joe Perrin was already like working with us, making all the video stuff. And we had a mirror truck coming out, or it was that shiny chrome one, but we called them mirrors because they were so shiny, they were like reflective, like looked like a mirror.
Right.
And somehow it was just like, whenever I would see, I mean, that was one of the funnest things about making Crux commercials, is often it would just be like, see something you think is funny, and how can we turn this into a Crux commercial?
Sure.
And so it was like, damn, what could we do something like that for Crux? Because we realized it was all CGI. I was like, man, if we green screen this, can we do like all of this? And it's like they're on that platform. I was like, what if that was like on the truck? And within like, I don't know, like probably a half hour, we had probably like 90% of the
the lyrics.
Not the lyrics, but just the idea of what it would be. And like, well, should we go ahead and try and make this? And then I just took the lyrics, whatever, found them online, and then just rewrote them from like about what I was trying to market, like a market perspective. And then we kind of like thought, between myself being like the skinny one and Joel being kind of like a bigger guy, like the two of us would kind of look like those dudes. And I asked Joel, and he was like, sure, whatever. And then we made 2 of those videos. And after the second one, like a whole day of like, because we made, music videos for him. So it would take like a full day of being in that stuff.
Yeah.
And as fun as it was, like, I don't know, maybe we'd have to pay him.
If it's the right situation. Kevin couldn't even believe it. I was telling him about it. Sometimes I don't like to say lies, so I stretch the truth. And he's getting used to like, is this real or not real? And I was like, no, dude, this is real. And I was like, I'm going to send you the link. And his bio was just blown. He didn't know about it at all.
You just influenced somebody.
A lot of our best Crux commercials, unfortunately, probably came out before YouTube was like solid. So like that one even is like, we did a lot that were for Fuel TV. Like a lot of the good ones with Colt Cannon and Cairo.
There's a Cairo one. I couldn't remember what it was, but I remember. Oh yeah,
the handstand board slide at the
right.
Buster rail.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Shout out to Eric Noren. Before Joe came in, who did our IKP stuff, Eric was our director and producer for all those, like the one with Colt Cannon and the explosions on the beach.
Yeah.
Fake perfume one. The one with Cairo, we had to rent 2 cherry pickers to have the cables.
Yeah.
The wire crew that held him up worked on Willow. All these, like, they're like legit wire film, like actual like film, real film team that does like wire work for movies. They probably did like, I want to say maybe they might have done some Crouching Tiger stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So got a permit to have that school for the day. He knew all these other people that worked in the film industry that would do it for free because they wanted to have this on their reel. Like, oh, I was the so-and-so, I was
right, the key
for the commercial. Yeah, exactly. For this commercial with,
Yeah.
And so we'd have like craft tables and like all this stuff, and it was like legit commercial things. And whatever, they were still expensive for NHS, but like it was in between getting so much extra from him on the film production side. Me being willing to just like put all the budget into it and into some dumb, making it silly, and it was really fun. Like Colt Cannon, like such a good sport. Like he's in a few of them, was just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, Colt didn't care. He's the best. He's just like down for that's what's kind of cool about the squad, right? It's like everybody kind of has that. Louis a fun, like, let's try to fucking do some weird shit. And like, so you're always trying to be creative, which isn't that what skateboarding is about?
And like, that was, so as soon as I took over Crux from Matt Sharkey, I think actually Kendall at some point ran Crux, and I think Sharkey took it over from him. And when Sharkey took it over, he was like, I'm changing it. It's no longer like this tech truck company. It's the fun truck company, and it's all about like humor and not taking yourself seriously. And so he put on Louis. Well, no, I think Louis already rode for Crux, but he put on Caswell and Colt and just really like started that whole direction of like, this company can't take itself seriously and never will. And so having those people that kind of like fit that.
Yeah.
It's always been hard to find. It's one of the reasons like Louis and Caswell are still like,
they're staples.
Yeah. They're still like the most Crux, because it's hard to find people that like have that, kind of like carefreeness or like love for skateboarding, but don't like take themselves too seriously.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And they're super good.
Well, winding down. Sorry, I'm taking a lot of your time, but I got just a couple more things. The Santa Cruz trip to the ballpark here. Were you a part of that?
Yep. Yeah. I was stoked. That was super fun.
What was that like? Because we did one with Trujillo and Vans, and they didn't let us skate in certain parts. And then I've also gone there and did like an OJ thing with Jason and Cranny. And there was certain restrictions, but it seemed like you guys had like almost carte blanche. Like you guys were skating the rails there and stuff, right?
Yeah, they let us I think part of it was a little like naivete as far as like, oh yeah, we're just going to wipe that off when you're done. And we're like, oh, you're going to have to like buff that thing, you know?
Yeah.
You might need a sander or whatever. So
is that through Andy Cuno though?
I think so.
Yeah.
Eric Palzolo hit me up to be like, asked me if I wanted to. I guess they were looking for people who at least, you know, if they didn't live in SF, were Bay Area people. So it was me, E-Man, and Nibs, and I was super psyched to get like invited on that one. And so they had a Zoom meeting the day before. We're like, we're going to do a little walkthrough, and they were talking about all the things that like they planned us to skate. And, you know, we ended up skating like 3 or 4 of them, but one of them was like, they wanted us to skate along the top of the dugout. And in my head, I was like, oh my God, I'm doing something on top of that dugout. I'm doing the no comply flip on top of the dugout is what I'm planning, right? I was like, whatever happens, I'm doing that. And then when we got there was like, yeah, we talked to some people. It might not be like really sound for it. And that was the only thing that they took off the list.
Oh.
So we'd already planned to skate that like condiment table, the railings on the back of the seats in that section over there.
Yeah, the bleachers.
Which is my my screensaver is doing the board slide on that thing.
Is that right in front of the Coke bottle?
Yeah.
Sick.
As soon as we actually got to like start skating, you know, a lot of it was planned that we, you know, our mascot and their mascot, it was a full script. So we had to do the whole thing. But like, as far as when it came to skating, it kind of were just like, we never got told like, hey, don't touch that. Don't skate that. And we immediately get to start just cooking through the hallways, like pushing as fast as you can. And we have the whole place to ourselves, even though that place is like union upon union structured in so many different ways, like so many different like people running this like major thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just like invited in and involved in it. But like, that was like, it was such an amazing fun day.
I'm hyped because they just hired this guy, Pat Burrell. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's an ex-Giants baseball player, and he's going to be a coach, and he grew up in Boulder Creek with Justin.
Yeah. Okay, I know that name. No way, that's a trip.
Yeah, so I was like, Justin, you got to come up. We got to fucking high five this dude. It's going to be...
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I think I've been through Justin before. That's sick.
Yeah, that's it. That's cool. All right, so three things. These are things that I'm going to call the greatest, but it's actually just the first thing that comes to your head because we can't call anything the greatest or the best because we've had a lot of great. So the first one being Santa Cruz graphic.
Salva Witch Doctor.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah. E-Man has that tattooed on his side. I've always wanted to get that as a tattoo as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. Second one, best band you've seen at the boardwalk?
Berlin. Riding on the Metro. Yeah, a couple years in a row. I think one year it was, I forget what her name is, the lead singer, but it was her 50th birthday, and she was like super hyped to be there. I think I went like 3 years in a row. Riding on the Metro, Take My Breath Away from Top Gun movie.
Is it Sex, I'm a Man?
Yeah, I'm a man.
That's my favorite.
I'm a bumblebee.
I'm a one-night stand, and we make love together.
So she did the backstory on that, and she was like, yeah, so like, I don't know if it was her husband or the guy she was dating at the time. She was like, so I'm going to say this one thing, and then you say this thing. And he was like, I'm just going to say I'm a man because this shit's like too crazy. Like, so she says all this extreme stuff.
I'm a man. It came out so good. It's like, yeah. Okay, this one's the toughest. What were you at? Like you saw this happen on a skateboard in live. Like one of the best things you've been there for to see in person.
Damn, like 8 flooded into my head. But here, I'll give you this one. 1997 Lausanne, Switzerland contest. It's the one where everybody thinks of it as Tom Penny did the hippie jump where his board goes through the car windows, right?
Oh.
There's 2 ramps, a pyramid with a car in between, and he hippie jumps through it, right? And Tyrone Olsen hippie jumps. They did it 2 in a row, right? Tyrone was the first person he was trying it for like a half hour and coming so close and just slamming. I don't think Tom did it first try by any means or whatever, but Tom came through and then all of a sudden does it. And it was like, oh, damn, that's fucked up. Like, Tyrone's not going to do it. And Tyrone just did it right after him. And it was just like, everybody was so happy. I remember like standing with Israel and I was like, dude, let's go over there so we can be standing where we see the boards. Like, we're looking at the boards shooting through at us, because they would jump off the ramp and they had no idea if their board was even going to come out the other window, let alone straight. So there was so many times like Tyrone or even Tom would like land on it and it would be twisted like the backside way and they would just slam, or it would just wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
And then so after all those tries, like Tyrone did a ton of tries, and it was like Tom did it first, and it was like, damn, you're gonna take it like that? And then Tyrone did it right after, and it was just like skate god moment right there.
Fuck yeah, that's sick. Dude, thank you so much for taking the time, man. I really appreciate it. It's good talking to you, catching up personally, and then hearing your stories, you know. And I always try, like, sometimes people don't like it, but I don't care. There's my shit. So I like giving shine to Jaya and Tim Brauch and Phil Shao and Preston and Jake and the people that aren't with us anymore. We had some amazing times with those people. And when I can get together with someone like yourself that shared times with them, it's like we can talk about some stuff and give shine to, you know, these guys are dear with our hearts forever. And like, that's for sure. So, and I know you were tight with those guys. So I appreciate hearing, like, you know, your relationship with Tim Brauch and stuff. And then that Jaya Bonderov, anytime anyone says best ever slick, I'm like, Jaya. I don't even think. I'm like, it was so good.
Corey Chrysler, Nick Foster, Billy Strubing,
right.
Cannery, Kit, all that time.
Yeah.
Sick. Thank you for having me on here, man. Good times.
Hell yeah. Big love, man. Hopefully I'll see you in real life.
Yes. Come on down, or I'll be up there soon for sure. Well, you know, when you come down, the first place you got to go is Derby.
Oh, yeah. Get out of there after that one.
Derby for Preston.
Hell yeah. No, Derby all day. Hell yeah. And dude, I want to go for real, I want to go to the pump tracks. Well, hell yeah, dude. Good to see you. Take care of yourself.
You too, buddy. Love you, man.
Peace.
Bang, bang, Niner gang.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Talkin Schmit. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Anchor, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. When you subscribe, you'll get notifications every Tuesday of new episodes the minute they become available. Also, please leave reviews and a 5-star rating. It's the best way to help the show grow. All of the episodes will always remain free, but if you would like to help support the show, you can do so at talkinschmit.com, where you can pick up some merchandise like t-shirts, beanies, hats, and stickers. The website has an entire archive of all of the episodes, with extra photos and videos. Email us with any suggestions, comments, or ways that the show may have improved your life at talkinschmit@gmail.com. All interviews are conducted, edited, and produced by Schmitty. The intro music is Mary's Cross by the band Nature. A very special shout out goes to the executive director, Cheryl Camisa.
Shout out.
Love it!
This is Talkin Schmit, where the Rolodex is deep, but the conversation is deeper.
Keep the wheels greased.